want you to just, grab a warm beverage, maybe sink back into your favorite chair, and just kind of unwind with us for a bit. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to take a very relaxed, gentle look at a situation that is, well, honestly, a little bit chaotic on the surface.
Yeah, chaotic is probably the best word for it. It's a really fascinating, slightly messy digital event.
It really is. So we're talking about the completely unannounced, out-of-nowhere arrival of Call of Duty Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. This just happened back in July of 2026.
Right, and the internet basically hasn't stopped buzzing about it since. It's just this massive cultural moment.
Exactly. And to figure out what's really going on beneath all that noise, we've brought in a pretty massive stack of source material today. We're looking at, the rigorous technical breakdowns from the folks over at Digital Foundry.
Which are always just incredibly detailed.
Oh, always. Plus, we have some really granular insider reporting from places like IGN and Kotaku. And maybe most importantly, we are pulling from the raw, passionate discussions happening right now on Reddit communities. Places like our PS5, our Call of Duty, and the dedicated Black Ops 2 subreddit.
Because that's where you really see how this is impacting the actual players. You get to see the real emotion there.
Right. And our mission today is to just gently unravel the layers of these highly debated ports. Because we aren't just here to read off frame rates and, retail prices.
No, not at all. That would be a bit dry.
Yeah, exactly. We want to explore the deep corporate politics behind this, the psychology of nostalgia, and what modern gamers actually value in a retro experience today. So, okay, let's unpack this.
I think the best place to start, just to get it out of the way, is the sheer financial reality of this release. Because the pricing structure is, well, it's definitely a choice.
It is a steep choice, yeah. So, Activision quietly drops these games on the PlayStation Store. And by the way, the porting was handled by Iron Galaxy.
Right. A studio that is very well known for handling legacy code.
Exactly. But if you boot up your console right now, the base game for Black Ops 1, which came out in 2010, is $40.
And Black Ops 2 from 2012 is another $40 just for the base games.
Yeah, which is already a lot. But then, you think about why people play these games. It's for the classic zombies maps.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a massive, massive draw for the community.
But to get those, you have to buy the original season passes. And those are priced at $30 each. So if you want the complete package for both games, you are looking at a total of $140.
Which is just a staggering amount of money for software that old. Now, we should mention, PlayStation Plus members do get a pretty steep discount if they buy in before August 6th.
Right, it's a promotional window.
Exactly. It drops the base games to $20 each, and the season passes to roughly $10.
Yeah.
So you can get the whole bundle for just under $60. But even then, the baseline price of $140 is what's causing so much friction online.
Because, you look at the Xbox ecosystem right now. If you're an Xbox player and you have your old Xbox 360 discs sitting in a drawer somewhere, you just put them into your Xbox Series X.
Yeah, the console downloads an update, and you're just playing the game for free.
Right. So PlayStation owners are basically being forced to buy their nostalgia all over again. Why is that? Why the huge disparity?
Well, it all goes back to the PlayStation 3's hardware. Microsoft spent years and millions of dollars building a backward compatibility system that basically acts like a virtual Xbox 360 inside the modern console. But the PS3 was built on the Cell architecture.
Oh, right, the infamous Cell processor.
Yeah, it was notoriously complex. It didn't process code the way modern x86 chips do, so you can't just easily emulate a PS3 game natively on a PS5 without a massive amount of engineering work.
So PlayStation players are essentially locked out of using their old discs?
Exactly. They are a captive audience. If they want this specific experience natively on their modern hardware, they have to pay the toll.
It just feels, I don't know, it's like if you went back to visit this beautifully preserved museum of your own childhood, like it's your actual childhood home, but to just walk through the front door of a house you used to live in 15 years ago, they charge you this massive premium VIP ticket price.
That is a very apt way to look at it. You are paying a premium just to access a memory.
Is it really fair to charge that much just to walk through those doors? But I guess transitioning away from the financial cost, we have to look at what you actually get when you pay that admission fee.
Right, because if you pay top dollar, you expect the house to be, dusted, maybe a fresh coat of paint.
Exactly. But when you look at the technical analysis from Digital Foundry, it becomes very clear that these are extremely bare-bones ports. They aren't remasters.
Yes, and that distinction is vital. These are direct ports. Both games are running at 1080p resolution, and a capped 60 frames per second on both the PS4 and the PS5.
So just to be clear, there is no 4K resolution at all.
None whatsoever. There is no 120 Hz support for high refresh rate monitors. There is no anti-aliasing, which means the edges of objects look very jagged.
Wow. And no field of view sliders, I imagine.
No FOV sliders. And surprisingly, no native mouse and keyboard support, which is standard in pretty much every modern shooter.
That's incredibly minimal. But, to be fair, I guess we should look at the historical context here. What were these games originally running at back in the day?
What's fascinating here is that the original PlayStation 3 version of Black Ops 1 ran at a mere 544p resolution.
Wait, 544p? That is incredibly low.
Yeah, and Black Ops 2 was only slightly better at 624p. So, mathematically speaking, a native 1080p image is a massive visual upgrade over the PS3 version.
Okay, I see.
And ironically, it technically beats the Xbox Series X version in pure pixel count, because the Xbox backward compatibility just runs the unenhanced 608p version from the 360 days.
Oh, wow. So PlayStation players actually get a sharper image than Xbox players right now.
They do. But for PS5 hardware, which is designed for native 4K, 1080p is still incredibly underwhelming. Because it's so sharp, it actually highlights all the flaws of the old engine. The blocky shadow maps, the really flat, high-contrast lighting, it's all untouched and very visible.
Yeah, it's like shining a massive spotlight on all the dust in that childhood museum. So the visuals are definitely a mixed bag. But from what I'm reading, the real tension in the community right now isn't about the graphics. It's about how the game actually feels.
Right. The system instabilities, this is where things get really rough for the players.
Yeah, if you look at the Reddit communities, people are reporting some really jarring bugs. First off, there's severe input lag.
Yes, specifically on the analog sticks. Players are complaining about unoptimized dead zones. It causes this really sluggish response on the right stick, which is your aim stick.
And in a game like Call of Duty, if your aiming feels heavy or delayed, that just breaks the whole flow. But even worse than the aiming is the stability. The disparity between the two games is wild.
It really is. Black Ops 2 seems relatively stable, aside from some legacy matchmaking hurdles with strict NAT types.
Right, but Black Ops 1, it is suffering from this catastrophic crash loop.
Yes, and it's heavily tied to the menus.
Yeah, I was reading this thread on our Call of Duty, and users are saying the game crashes to the PS5 dashboard almost every single time they try to back out of a multiplayer lobby or exit to the main menu.
It just totally gives out and hard crashes the console software.
There was one user who mentioned their game crashed right in the middle of using a chopper gunner.
Oh, that is just heartbreaking.
Right, you finally get the top kill streak and the game just dies on you. And apparently streaming the game natively from the console is nearly impossible because just searching for a new playlist can force a hard reset.
It makes for a very volatile experience.
But you know, I have to ask, it's like putting a vintage car engine into a modern luxury vehicle. Shouldn't the new car easily handle the old engine? I mean, how does a 16-year-old game manage to completely crash a hyper-powerful PS5?
It's a great question. And it likely comes down to how strict the PlayStation 5's operating system is with memory management. When you port old network code to a modern infrastructure, sometimes the game asks the system to do something the PS5 considers unauthorized or out of bounds. And instead of just lagging, the PS5's security architecture just instantly kills the application to protect the system.
Wow, okay. So it's not a lack of power, it's a conflict of software rules. But still, releasing a game in that state feels very low effort, which kind of leads us away from the code and into the boardrooms.
Right, because you have to wonder why Activision would sign off on a port with this many compromises.
Yeah, and this is where we dive into this corporate parity compromise theory, because the landscape has completely changed. Microsoft now officially owns Activision, and by extension, they own the Call of Duty IP.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Microsoft has to carefully manage platform equity now. They made a lot of promises to regulators that they wouldn't degrade the experience for PlayStation players.
But they also have their own Xbox console to sell.
Precisely. Think about it. If Activision had poured millions into a flawless, native 4K, 120 Hz, fully remastered Black Ops collection exclusively for the PlayStation 5.
It would look absolutely incredible.
It would, but it would also look vastly superior to the version currently available on Microsoft's own flagship console, the Xbox Series X, which is stuck running that old 608p emulated version.
Oh man, so they can't let the PlayStation version completely embarrass the Xbox version?
Right, that's the speculation. This bare bones 1080p cap on PlayStation might be a very deliberate, sanitized middle ground.
A corporate compromise?
Yes, it gives PlayStation players the access they were promised, but it restrains the visual quality so that the Xbox ecosystem doesn't look technically inferior by comparison. It's a really quiet, fascinating compromise between these two corporate titans.
That is wild. It's like the 1080p resolution is literally a diplomatic treaty in pixel form. But this concept of sanitization keeping things restrained, it isn't just about the graphics, right? It deeply affects the actual content of the games.
Yes, heavily. The developers had to make some very surgical cuts to the games themselves.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Because players realized this by looking at the new PlayStation 4 and 5 trophy lists. They noticed certain things were just completely missing compared to the original PS3 trophies.
The trophy lists act like a manifest of what was removed. Let's look at Black Ops 1 first. Theater mode is entirely gone.
Right, because there used to be a trophy called Date Night for watching a film with a friend, and that trophy was deleted.
Exactly. And the reason for this is purely security. Back in the day, theater mode was notoriously used for script injections. Hackers would upload corrupted video files, and if you watched them, it would execute malicious code on your console.
Oh, wow. So they could literally hack you through a replay video.
Yes, so removing it now is a vital security measure to protect modern networks.
Okay, that makes total sense. But they also removed wager matches from Black Ops 1. The trophy in the money was deleted. Why remove wager matches? Those were like the best party modes. Gun game, one in the chamber.
They were beloved, yes. But in those modes, players gambled their in-game currency against each other. And while that was fine in 2010, today there are incredibly strict anti-gambling regulations in gaming all over the world.
Ah, right. Loot box laws and all that.
Exactly. To comply with modern regulations that simply didn't exist 14 years ago, they had to sanitize the gambling mechanics out of the game completely.
Wow, it really is a different world now. And then in Black Ops 2, they removed League play.
Yes.
And what's funny is the trophy for it, Big Leagues, is still there, but they altered it so you get it just for starting the single-player campaign. It's kind of hilarious. But why scrap League play?
Mostly likely it's an infrastructure issue. Maintaining a modern, highly competitive server architecture with ranked ladders and elo systems for a game from 2012 just isn't sustainable for them.
Right, it costs too much money for an old game. But looking at all of this, removing theater mode to stop hackers, cutting wager matches for legal reasons, it points to this ultimate goal for these ports. They're trying to create this incredibly safe, closed-off environment for players.
Yes, a sanitized space. Which leads us perfectly into how they handled the matchmaking.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Because during launch week, there was so much confusion about crossplay, people didn't know who they could play with.
Right. Activision eventually came out and clarified that PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 players can seamlessly matchmake together.
Okay, that's good.
But there is absolutely zero cross-network play with Xbox or PC. It is completely walled off.
Just a PlayStation bubble. And inside that bubble, they actually implemented this really brilliant, subtle fix to the old DLC problem.
Oh, the DLC fragmentation. That was a nightmare back in the day.
Yeah. In the original games, if you bought a map pack, the game would only match you with other people who bought that exact same map pack. So you'd get isolated into these tiny matchmaking pools, and you could never find a game.
It punished you for buying the content.
Exactly. But in these new ports, the lobby logic is different. It allows Season Pass holders to matchmake with people who don't own the Season Pass.
Right. And if the system can't find a DLC lobby for everyone, it just peacefully defaults to the base game maps.
So nobody gets isolated, it keeps the community together.
It's a massive quality of life improvement. And when you think about it, this whole walled garden approach is actually incredibly peaceful.
How so?
Think about the PC space for older Call of Duty games. It is completely overrun with hackers.
Oh yeah, aimbots everywhere.
Exactly. But with absolutely no PC crossplay on these ports, there are no PC hackers. It is an isolated, closed-off ecosystem dedicated entirely to PlayStation console players. It's incredibly secure.
And that security, that walled garden, it really brings us to the most baffling part of this entire story. Despite the high price, despite the 1080p graphics, despite the crashing menus, these ports have been a massive, overwhelming success.
They really have. The demand was so high on release day that it briefly crashed the PlayStation Store.
Yeah, and industry reporting suggests that the player numbers for these retro ports actively rivaled and maybe even exceeded the modern active Call of Duty Black Ops 7 across all platforms.
Which is just an unbelievable metric.
It's insane. Why are players eagerly paying up to $140 for a crashing 1080p game with missing modes? Especially when the Xbox backward compatible version is free if you have the disc, or you can play it on PC for cheaper.
It comes down to how consumer evaluation has shifted. Players aren't paying for high resolutions anymore.
Hmm.
They aren't paying for perfectly smooth anti-aliasing. They're paying for exactly what we just discussed, software sanitization.
They are paying for safety.
Precisely. Because those PC and Xbox versions, while maybe technically superior or cheaper, are fundamentally compromised by malicious hackers and security threats. You boot up an old Xbox 360 lobby today, and there's a good chance your stats will get ruined by a modder.
Right. So it's like buying access to a private, beautifully maintained park in the middle of a chaotic city.
That's a great way to picture it.
Like, you aren't paying for new trees or better grass, right? You're literally just paying for the fence. You're paying for the fence that keeps the vandals out so you can just relax and enjoy your afternoon.
Exactly. The fence is the product. A 1080p, slightly unstable game is worth the price of admission if it means you can actually play the game normally without someone flying through the sky with an aimbot.
So, to you, the listener, what stands out to you in all of this? When you look back at the games you loved playing years ago, would you rather play a gorgeous 4K remastered version that is completely ruined by cheaters? Or would you gladly take a slightly blurry 1080p version where you can finally just play in peace? It's a really interesting trade-off.
It really is. It changes the way we think about what makes an old game valuable.
So what does this all mean at the end of the day? We've gone from the initial sticker shock to the technical bumps of the direct port to the really fascinating corporate politics of Microsoft and Sony.
Right, the parity compromise.
Yeah, and ultimately to this realization that a secure, walled-off community is maybe the most valuable feature you can have in retro gaming.
This raises an important question, though. Something I think is worth thinking about after we wrap up here.
Oh, definitely. What is it?
If the massive success of these Black Ops ports proves that a secure, isolated social environment is ultimately more valuable to players than graphical fidelity, what does that mean for the future of video game preservation? Because perhaps the ultimate goal of preserving a multiplayer game isn't actually about archiving the code perfectly. Maybe it's not about the resolution. Maybe the real challenge is finding a way to perfectly archive the trust and safety we felt when we first played it together.
Wow. Archiving the trust, that is a really beautiful way to look at it. Because without the trust, the game just isn't the same.
Well, we're going to leave you with that thought to mull over. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you have a peaceful, relaxing, and crash-free rest of your day.